creating these refugia during fire. It's not a huge effect when we're in that beaver dammed area. The wildfire didn't really affect those plants that much. But then as soon as we got out, it was huge. We're seeing massive changes in plant greenness, and that is probably because they're burning. They're not burning where we have these beaver dams, but they're for sure burning where we don't, just like we saw in Dr. Wheaton's picture, just like we saw in the conceptual model. Beaver dammed areas were 3 times more protected from wildfire than areas without beaver. So threefold difference. The beavers were doing a huge amount of firefighting work in this landscape.
So this is a beaver dam, and this was an area that stayed green and wet during the Carr fire, and the firefighters used it as a fire shelter to rest as part of their firefighting. Is that they really are great for maintaining good water supplies and good riparian areas and protecting them from wildfire.
Our recovery actions, there is a need for more slow water habitat. And you can see some of the highest priority actions: increase beaver abundance, construct off-channel ponds, restore natural channel form and function. It all points to slow water. And a cool little fun fact is that beaver's mentioned 395 times in the Coho recovery plan. And there's a good reason for that. But these coho need slow water, and this is where the beaver are found as well. They love the low gradients, the slow water, the swampy habitat.
In this talk, I'd like to give a lecture of how beavers are helping us with restoration and conservation on our timberlands. Primary species of interest were wet meadow-dependent wildlife, including willow flycatcher, greater sandhill crane, and Cascades frog. We did quickly learn that there was a relatively simple and cheap solution that could help fix a lot of the problem. And this was beavers. I hope that there are CDFW folks listening in right now, because the Almanar Forest is in a perfect area to allow beaver translocations, especially for moving nuisance beavers. We are extremely low risk in terms of infrastructure, with high rewards due to our location in the headwaters of our state. If the state departments were to consider beaver translocations, our area would be a perfect trial and demonstration site.
For ways that you might communicate some of what we're trying to achieve without actually talking as directly about beaver all the time. And then when people get impatient about, well, how long is it going to take? Or how do I make it look like that? Or how do we not have to do maintenance? Well, the rodent that you didn't want to talk about or think about, that's where they come in, and then it's an easier conversation to have. So it's okay to leave your space messy. It's okay to let somebody else do the work for you, like the beaver. It's okay to defer decision making, right? All these things that we wouldn't think of as otherwise good, and just get out of the way.
In this arrangement where we did our research, we found that the ranchers that we worked with really felt that the beavers' benefits outweighed their drawbacks. And primarily that was because they very much recognized the way in which beavers increase surface water availability during the long summer months, and that was really good for livestock. But they also found that there was a much wider sort of green line around these riparian areas. So wet meadows increased, and that meant that forage production increased both in quality and quantity, which really benefited their livestock.
We need to manage and regulate water and land for ecosystem needs and for the future generations. I want my grandson to have the same opportunity to be on the landscape and see these wonderful systems and species that I've had. And we need to look for those opportunities to allow the river, the real estate to move as best as possible within the context of these working landscapes.
Submitted a rule change petition to try to change the code around depredation, in part to give the department more leeway, legal backing to condition those permits, and then also to make sure that that they do exhaust non-lethal management strategies. So there are other programs that we can draw from as well, where there's funding to do this and make
excitement now in Atascadero and our county around beavers. And how did this all begin?
Audrey and I are kind of like the boots on the ground helping with Dr. Emily Fairfax's research. And I just realized that, it's these natural places like this that give us so much, and especially an oasis like